Mattresses.
Oh, yeah, everybody.
Great. Welcome everyone to the Village of New Paltz
I
Planning
think it
Board
says you're muted.
meeting.
Meeting is now streaming live.
Okay.
We're good.
Okay, welcome everyone. I am going to be standing in for Chair John Litton tonight. We have some administrative business, a few public hearings, and then also a few application reviews, but pretty short meeting. So I'd like to start out with, did everyone read the minutes from the 4/18 meeting? Everyone get a chance to review those?
Yes.
Could I get a motion to approve the minutes from the last meeting?
So moved.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Abstain, I
Just
wasn't
a-
present.
We vote. Well, I
Oh.
want to talk about who was, were you?
Yeah, I have to abstain, I wasn't here for the last meeting.
Okay, yes, both of you will be voting members tonight.
Okay. Well, we were here, so,
Yeah,
yeah, okay.
great. So then we have 4 ayes and 1 abstain. I'd like to ask for an update from the village board or the Ulster County Planning Board if Will Murray is here. Anything to report?
No real update. Ulster County Planning Board meets tomorrow night.
Okay.
But I will say that members of the village and town are expressing interest tomorrow night at the School District's Board of Education, expressing interest in the industry.
Interesting. Okay. Thank you. Any update from the Environmental Policy Board? I guess Rachel is not here tonight. So I have to skip this meeting.
They haven't missed.
Okay. So I guess they're still looking for new members.
Always.
Got it.
Thank you.
Just thought I'd throw that out
It's
there.
it's plug you.
Anybody? Next, I'd like to get a motion to approve that I am allowed to sign these purchase orders in lieu of John Litton.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Moving on. I'd like to open the or ask if anyone would like to make a general public comment about any of the business before the planning board that's not in the public hearing section tonight, or any other general comments? Anyone here to make public comments? Anyone online?
Should we read this letter into the record?
I thought that one was read at the last. I thought
I
prior.
recall that being read at
Yeah.
one point.
Okay.
Yeah, we got
I do recall.
prior.
Thank you.
to-
Sorry, I didn't remember that. Is that-
Great. Well, then, moving on to the first public hearing. Could I get a motion to open the public hearing for PB 22-18, 6810 Cooper Street?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, does anyone here to make a public comment about this project? So. I'm not sure. We can ask the applicant about that in the application review section.
Building corner over because the way it is now, all those large trees. That's why I had asked that meeting.
Yeah, it's possible that he just did not have time to get to that, but we can discuss that in the next section. Does anyone else like to make a comment for 6810 Cooper Street? Okay, seeing none, I'd like to get a motion to close the public hearing. Yes, I mean, that will also be discussed, but you know, this is just the public hearing where you know, members of the public can, you know, read their opinions on the project. So okay, that is everyone for 22-18. I'd like to get a motion to close the public hearing. Second.
Point.
Oh,
Are
yeah.
we closing it? We're not postponing it. We're just, I know we've gone through this back and forth. I'm not recommending either way. I'm just asking.
Yeah,
That's a
This
good
is-
question.
this was my understanding, like this has been open for a while now, and it seemed like all the points have been addressed, but
I mean, from what I can see, I think that we still have to wait for comments from the village engineer. So perhaps we should move, I'm sorry.
I've got a response. from
Oh, okay, you
Tuesday.
did.
He says simply, the project is directing all or nearly all of the new impervious surfaces, roofs and driveways to the storm drainage system in the prior approved subdivision. This has always been the plan. The added swale will take some lawn area drainage away from Village Arms. This is acceptable to.
And then do you have anything? Sorry. I thought you were gonna chime in.
Yeah, so I think you can close the hearing if you want to, and
Okay.
then we can talk about the other details.
yeah. Yeah, and once again, this is not implying that there cannot be any further discussion from the public, or this is not saying that we are approving it. This is just closing this public hearing section. Okay, so,
It moved and seconded.
okay,
I'm sorry. I interrupted.
no problem.
Thanks, Terry. Second motion to close the public hearing.
Yeah, so all in favor?
Hi.
Aye. So moving on to PB 23-06, could I get a motion to open the public hearing for PB 23-06, 7-11 Church Street?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Would anyone like to make a comment about 7-11 Church Street? Okay. Hearing none, I'd like to get a motion to close the public hearing for PB 23-06.
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so hearing is closed for that application as well. Finally, I'd like to get a motion to open the public hearing for PB 2307, 61 Church Street.
Oh,
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so anyone like to make a public comment about 61 Church Street? Hearing none, I'd like to get a motion to close the public hearing for the 23-07.
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Great. Okay, so that concludes the public hearing section of the meeting. Moving on to the application review, PB 22-18, 6810 Cooper Street. Where would you guys like to start? Well, I guess we could just tell us about any updates that have been made to the plans or, yeah.
We are, we continue, unfortunately, our architect remains, in the hospital. He's been there for quite some time now, so we're still awaiting his return in order to, make some of the tweaks, like, as Carol mentioned, seeing what we can do about nudging the building over from the north end, to see what we can do about trying to preserve some of the trees that are located in close proximity to the northwest corner of the northern lot. But until he's back, I can't finalize that. We're also removing the deck from the back of the of each of the units, or leaving it as an optional thing. And so there's a small, like, little thing. We're making a couple changes.
Okay.
And moving, a couple doorways, but nothing substantial in that regard. Anyway, so that's one thing. The other thing that has taken place is, I met with the Village Arms folks, including Patrick here, over the weekend. I'd asked our engineer, as you probably saw, to really quantify the impact, because I think what was missing before is I could wave my hands a lot and say, look, we're pushing all this water to the front, but they had no real way of understanding the impact, right? So he made that very clear, saying we're going to reduce runoff by over 50%, et cetera. And as the village engineer pointed out, he thinks that is going to have, a very positive impact on the project. Anyway, we met and we agreed. I gave them a memo saying, hey, if at any time, whether before this project kicks off or after, you want to access the area in the southwest corner where the swale will direct what remaining water there is, and you believe you need that kind of extra infrastructure installed to deal with the drainage issues that they've been facing on kind of their southeast side, I'm happy to provide that. Right. So we'll work it out together.
Can you explain to me by access to the swale? There's the
area where they're experiencing a lot of problems now is along the southwest corner.
Mm-hmm.
And like I both my engineer and I believe that the amount of improvements we're making, they're going to find that they don't even need to, there's nothing to improve anymore. It's going to take care of all of the water issues that they find down here. But, if they feel like they need more, we would allow them to have access to like the low point here to basically connect some pipes, a sub drain that would allow them to take the pooling that's in this general area across the property lines, to take that down to they have a catch basin, which is right next to the community center. And so they, I guess some of the folks in Village Arms have some expertise in this, and they believe that they could fix a lot of these drainage problems that they've experienced on their south side by connecting to that catch basin, and whisking the water into the tributary 13. But in any event, I also urge them, I said, hey, guys, just wait until you actually see the impacts before,
Would that type of consideration need to be included as some form of easement in the plan, in the application?
I'm not sure, is that?
No, they're not insisting on
They
that. They have, I mean, you can ask Patrick here, but they've not.
Yeah, I was asking if
We're working it out.
but I was asking if we, as a planning board, would
Oh.
want something like that documented. If it's a point of consideration for our approval, then we might want to have something like that documented. So that's-
Make it as a condition. Yeah.
Okay, so,
Let's not leave that. I mean, I appreciate what you're saying, Dave, but 5 years from now, 10 years from now, I don't know what that would mean to anybody. I'll be honest with you, because you don't own the property. It's owned by a condominium association, which even makes it a little more complicated. I don't know how we could generally put a condition that says if there's a problem with drainage, and I'm not trying to make light of this, if there's a problem with drainage, you, the condominium association, have the right of access to what? They don't have, we could not give them the right of access to property at the community center.
Well,
In the short term, Dave, I understand what you're saying. Kind of. But, the nature of the board is, we're looking 20 years down the road. And anything can happen in the drainage swale in 20 years.
but that's not what's going on in 20 years isn't really the purview of the planning board, is it?
It is right now, yes. Yeah,
Okay.
the whole drainage system you've designed, it's been designed to last 50 years, 100 years.
Well, here would be my position. I think our engineer and your village engineer have both indicated that the improvements that we're making, which are vast, are reducing the runoff by over 50% and leaving the conditions here from a drainage standpoint even better than what they were when they were forest, when this was virgin land. So from the perspective of the planning board and me, I would hope that you would recognize those things and allow us as neighbors to handle anything else in the future. That would be my position.
Yeah, that's why I asked the point I made, which is that if you offered the information that there was going to be some personal agreement between the two properties that some future access could be granted, and you want us to consider that as a part of approving the application. Well, first of all, I want to say the first things you said are exactly where I would have left this conversation, which is that our engineer has indicated that it's an improvement and that it was the plan all along because of that. I've looked at the memo. I think I understand what the diagrams, but the memo is certainly clear about the improvement and the reduction. So that's, I think, the planning board's consideration for the
Right.
application, as far as I'm concerned. And I don't have to advise you, but I would just ask the rest of the planning board members, if we're satisfied with what we have with regard to the engineer's information, then that is the reason to move beyond this piece of the application, not the potential for some agreement that's not documented and is not a consideration of the application.
I completely agree. I think the only thing that we do need to focus on a little bit as a board is the maintenance of that swale. That we could, that there's not even too much detail that an engineer can tell us how to maintain that swale. Cut it 3 times a year. I don't see any structures in the swale. I think it is basically a grass swale. There's no manholes in there. It's just a grass swale.
That's right.
Yeah, so the maintenance is basically keep it cut,
That's right.
keep debris out of there. That should be part of our, I think something like that, I think should be part of our concern, but. Yeah, whatever you just mentioned as an agreement,
I'm just telling you, I met with these guys and we've discussed it and they seem to be
Okay.
satisfied, period.
Good.
And so the small adjustments that you were talking about that your architect hasn't made to the site plan, would that affect
Yeah,
the plan at all?
this is relevant with regards to what Carol brought up about setbacks.
So
Just to show you, we're gonna work within the setbacks as they exist, right? And to the extent that we can nudge this building over, as you can see, the north structure here, we have about, what is that, about 8 feet, probably. I'm eyeballing it. This is a hole of 24. Yeah, it's about 8 feet of space that we have from this side deck to the southern setback. On the north, you can see that we have extra space here, so we're looking to kind of nudge this over, but we're not going to surpass any of the required setbacks. And as you can see, we are from Carol's properties right here. On this, we share this corner. You can see that that these optional balcony, decks here are, almost 31 feet from the back line, and the required setback is 25 feet, right? If those decks aren't even there, then that's another 5 feet. So we're well within, we're not even pushing the boundaries of the setbacks. We're beyond the setback requirements. But anyway, so there's 2 points. One, we are respecting the setbacks entirely and then some. And two, we are looking to see what we can do to push the building this way for a number of reasons, not just to try to protect these trees, but also because, because of the spacing in that northern lot that Terry mentioned before we convened here is, it's not very pretty right here when there's a lot of cars there and so forth. So, but anyway, I can't, until he gets out of the hospital, I can't finalize that, but it's not going to be a substantial change from the perspective of the planning board.
Yeah, I'm just trying to determine if the plan that our engineer reviewed and just, gave his approval on is going to be like.
Oh, you mean from a drainage standpoint?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No. This is not. We're talking about nudging the building review will have no impact on drainage whatsoever.
Okay.
Yeah. It's still, everything's oriented the same way. All the water from the roof will still be piped to the stormwater system along Cooper Street, et cetera.
Yeah. Okay. Understood.
We're not changing the footprint of the structures in any way.
Right. Did any other members of the board have other questions to ask?
I don't have a question, but I hope that the architect is able to, or some replacement is able to move it forward, because now that the public hearing is closed, we want to make sure we can move the application.
Yeah, I know. I'm hoping we'll see. I'm hoping we have one that you'll get everything you need at this last one. And as you'll see, it's pretty minor change.
Well, I wonder if would the other members of the board be comfortable with authorizing our attorney to draft a memo or resolution of approval, like pending or conditioned on the final site plan, receiving the final site plan?
We have a couple other things that we just need to clear up after this meeting too. One is the issue of if you're looking to make this into a condo arrangement,
Right.
we need to determine if that's if the code accommodates that.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is that just today, we received some information that there might be easements or covenants encumbering this property. So we spoke about that right before the meeting. And so the applicant's going to look into that. So we just need to, clear those things up. It may be that all is well, or it may be that we need to discuss it further. So if you want to authorize the resolution, we can prepare it. Yeah.
Pending those items.
So what is the current status of the lot configuration? Are you still looking into combining them, or is that?
No, but the code is pretty clear, unfortunately, that we can't merge the lots.
Okay.
Ironically, if we did a much bigger project, like put a Village Arms density place, like a multifamily dwelling, a large building, we could merge the lots. But we can't do it and put multiple two-family homes on it, which is ironic, but it's the way it is. So we've asked the attorneys. I'll send that memo in. What we were talking about right before this was just checking to see if there are any issues with the notion of encumbering 3 parcels with a single condominium association. And I don't think there's any issues there, but we just have to confirm, obviously.
Okay, understood. So there's the issue of the easements and the final changes to the site plan.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
those
since
are
you don't
some-
even have the final plans yet, it seems like you might want to wait until you have that before authorizing the resolution.
Sure.
But it's up to
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, I think I'm comfortable waiting one more meeting.
Who would be responsible for the maintenance plan? For a minimum swale.
It can certainly be a condition in the resolution that, you know,
Oh.
the drainage system and the properties that affect the drainage will be maintained appropriately, could be a condition in the resolution.
Yeah, I guess I'm thinking if it were a condo association, that they would have that responsibility, but if they're gonna be individual lots, you know, so we need to make sure that's recorded somehow, depending on how it's gonna play out.
Yeah, I think this is, I don't want to make too much of this, but. I've seen drainage problems in condo associations and it gets bad. It really gets ugly. I think somebody, and I'm not sure who does this, somebody should come up with a maintenance plan for that swale. And I talked about twice a year, maybe it's 4 times a year, which is better, no question about it. But 4 times a year, it needs to be cut. Somebody needs to go in there and pick up the trash, get it out of there. Now you have a condo association. If the upstream part of the swale is bad and the downstream condo owner is saying, hey, wait a minute, I'll tell you, they're going to start pointing fingers. So not only do we have to have a maintenance agreement, but we have to have somehow that has to be laid over the top of or within a condo document that says the association will do this. Or make sure, that it's done by somebody. So
And does the village need access to inspect it?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, so I think,
Grant, but you might need one more meeting. don't you?
yeah, I think so, and I think we should come up with ways that we can, ensure that that's done, and maybe, decide if we want to include that in the resolution of approval or in some other way.
And I'd also ask that you look at, what other precedents there are in the village. We don't want to over engineer this either, right? Like when we say a swale, what we're saying is there's lawn and that it is banked so that it contains water and directs it in a certain direction. We're not talking about some elaborate structure. And so that swale would be part of the lawn that is simply a slight rise. So the condo association is going to be very, very interested in maintaining their lawn and keeping the grounds well maintained. They're not going to be letting stuff just go. So I'd be a little bit careful about trying to over orchestrate, what our condo associations should do because of a notion of that a swale is, just caution you there. I think our incentives are aligned, that our condo association wants to maintain a very nice property. And let us do that.
Well, let me just push back a little bit. This isn't a notion, David. I have experienced this as a city manager with swales and condo associations. And they are, as you described, there's no question about it. It's an indentation covered in grass. But I've seen them go bad. There's no question about that. And then I've watched condo associations go to war over this because when you have a drainage problem, no matter where it is, it impacts the neighbors a lot. The neighbors in the condominiums to your west, it'll impact the condominiums who buy into your project. So I don't think I'm overstating this. In fact, I know I'm not overstating this. I think we do need to spend some time on it. I think we need to get this right. And I think we need to get it into the resolution so that it's there in perpetuity. Frankly, I've seen cases like this, not in this state, but I've seen cases like this where they've actually forced a developer to post a bond in perpetuity to maintain things like this. Now, I'm not saying we need to do that. We don't.
Right.
Because I think we can address this issue well in a resolution and
Just,
25 years from now, we're not gonna have to worry about it, because it's gonna work.
yeah, the only thing I'd say is keep in mind that we are improving the conditions 50%
I agree.
over what exists today.
Completely,
That is an enormous change.
completely agree.
The stormwater regulations require that you provide for maintenance.
Thank you. Thanks, Sarah.
So we'll see you in a couple weeks. I'll try to get those answers. What was your name again? I'm sorry.
Emily Benson.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks, David.
Thank you, David. Um,
I don't
Yes.
have any feedback from the building inspector about the question, which I believe, going back to the minutes from Carol, was about, the distribution of the side yard. So just
Yeah.
making note of that's how I'll follow up with the building inspector about that.
I think the question was asked, but looking at the plan, I don't think there is a question as to whether they are in, are there any violations with regard to the setback or any needs for variances there. I think the questions now are whether they, out of consideration for the feedback, would move the building at all to try to preserve the trees. But the setback is not the issue. But it was a good question, and we didn't have the answer immediately, so we do now.
Thanks for
Okay, moving on to PD 2306 7-11 Church Street. Back. Okay, so are there any changes to the site plan since you were last year, or changes to your plans in any way?
Just hoping to continue on.
Okay, great. So I think the main thing we were waiting on last time was a zoning review by Corey to determine whether the pre-existing non-conforming condition was, well, if it was a actual pre-existing condition. And I don't believe we heard back from him, did we?
Unfortunately,
Okay. Well, there's not a lot else we can do. We did hear from the county that they don't need to review the project. But I think, right now, the best we can do, we had your public hearing, close your public hearing, but the best we can do now is to draft a resolution of approval, and then hopefully next meeting, we'll get that final okay from our zoning inspector, our building inspector, and we can vote to approve.
Oh, okay, so there's nothing we can do to like get it done this meeting, because our landlord's been very patient with us. And I think he was under the impression as well that like everything was fine, we just needed the public hearing.
Yeah, I mean,
This is the first that we're hearing too about the zoning inspector needing to weigh in.
I think last meeting, that issue was raised too about the pre-existing, the non-conforming condition, whether it was pre-existing or not. But I mean, regardless of that, we still need to draft the resolution of approval and then vote on that. So I don't think we would be able to do that tonight.
Okay.
Regardless. But certainly next meeting, that should be all ready to go.
And what we can do is just ask, can I be reminded of what the pre-existing non-conforming issue was?
There's two.
I think it was like within the setback, looking at the site plan.
And just from like our perspective, there obviously was a business there very recently, so I have no doubt that that'll go, in your favor. I just think it's a matter of, at least now, we can ask Emily to draft the resolution, and then by next 2 weeks, then Corey will have had time to do so, and then that night we'll be able to vote, and you'll be good to go.
Yeah, I think it's just that little walkway that sticks
Little ramp
out.
thing.
Yeah,
Okay. We could just, I mean, and I'm just trying to ask about the complexity of it, maybe, just to see if it's something we
don't
couldn't ask Cory to.
It's
please have
not
it.
terribly complex. I just
Yeah.
sent a memo.
Great.
Basically, the pre-existing non-conforming status of the building, because it's right up on the street, and whether or not anything else needs to be done with the landscaping as a result, but they're only renting the inside of the building.
Thanks.
Not responsible for the exterior.
Yeah, I think he'll be able to just sign up on something, by next week. So in that case, could I get a motion to authorize our attorney to draft a resolution of
So moved.
approval?
Second,
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, great. So we will have that for you next meeting. Sorry, we couldn't finish it off tonight, but very
Yeah, it should
close.
be.
All right,
Good to go.
thank you.
Thank you.
We'll book you first.
Okay. And moving on, we have PB 23-07, 61 Church Street.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening. Hey, were there any other changes since our last meeting?
No changes, just a correction of a dimension conflict. And yeah, that was really it. So that was one of the
Is that just the 130 versus the 130?
yeah, exactly. Yep, that was clarified, which was one of the issues. And we also were tasked with checking in with the DEC in relation to the sedge wren, which is an endangered species that was flagged on the EAF report and received the negative declaration from them on that. Autumn, I believe you sent that to you.
Sorry. Forgive me.
Oh, sorry. The negative declaration on the endangered species from.
Yes, thank you.
So that was the other one.
Could you
And
go back, did you say the newest site plan submission has that correction of the
yes.
dimensions?
Yep. Mhm. Correct. I could pass you one if you wanted to take a look.
Did you, but you got that file electronically, Autumn?
See it here. And if you're looking for those, it was one on each sheet, and that was the clarification. So, yeah,
130 versus 132.
yeah. So number 2 on PB1 calls it out as 130 now, and number 5 on PB2 also calls it out as 130.
Just make sure we have that.
I do. Sorry.
That's cool.
Yeah, no worries.
Thanks.
Okay, so. Site plan got. And I'm assuming we did not hear anything from building inspector about the pre-existing non-conformities. Okay. So I think that we are still,
Can we do the same, with the cat cafe, and draft a resolution pending Cory's review?
I mean, I'm comfortable with that. I think.
Yeah, the reason we
this
didn't
will-
put that in the memo is that we didn't know we had the site plan, but now that we
Right.
have everything, I think if you're comfortable doing that, it's fine.
Yeah.
I came in with the affidavit, at least the attachment.
And we still need that clarification from Cory, even though we're not proposing any work in that area of existing non-conformance.
To make sure you don't have to remedy it.
Right.
If it were not pre-existing.
Yeah, unfortunately. So, yeah, I think, unless anyone objects, I'm comfortable getting the, resolution of approval this meeting. Could I get a motion to authorize the drafting of that?
so move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Okay. Well, I think that's all we can do tonight, and Autumn, we'll get the sign off from the building inspector, and then hopefully have you on your way.
Okay. All right, appreciate
Thank
it. Thank you.
So that concludes the application reviews tonight. I just need a,
Can I
yeah,
ask a question? And if I'm out of order, no, I will stop. Just tell me. It frankly has to do with Cooper Street. We closed the public hearing. He admitted that he's having trouble providing site plans. I understand that. We had a long discussion, or I shouldn't say that. I don't mean that. We had a discussion about this 61-day rule. Does that mean, what does that mean here? Well, let me give you for instance, we closed the public hearing on Cooper Street. If we can't do anything in 61 days and there's not a site plan, what happens?
Yeah,
That
well,
brand new attorney. so-
Yeah, I realized he was still changing the site plan. We probably should, I mean, I'll have to look at that, because I didn't realize he was still in the process of changing the site plan. We may need to just ask to extend that deadline.
Oh, that's something we can do. We asked the applicant to extend it. Okay,
But there must be a condition in that requirement that if the final site plan is not submitted to the planning board, then it's not our fault that it's taken 61 days or more.
We don't have a complete
We
application.
don't have a
if
complete
it's-
application, so it's
still-
after, from which,
Right.
it's after the application is complete and the public hearing.
So
is
it hasn't
closed.
triggered the,
I'm gonna look at, I haven't,
No.
gotten into your code that
No.
deeply yet, but,
Emily, what are you doing? Sleeping on the.
But that was
floor.
why I was asking too, because if in a really unfortunate scenario that his architect's unable to continue the work, that could mean that it could continue, but I would like Emily's, opinion for future projects too, because we're on the clock with a couple of them. Yeah.
is that a Village of New Paltz code thing? That's not a seeker, like New York State
well,
process?
there's state village law, and then there's also the village code.
Oh, okay,
That would
I
both
see.
apply, yeah.
Hmm.
so in a perfect scenario, if we had a complete application and we do not close a public hearing. Now, what, I just don't understand
The
this
clock
61
doesn't
day.
start, I don't think, until the,
So if we
Research
close
that
that,
for you and give
Yeah.
you some more guidance on that.
Okay,
for the
we'll
next
look for your
meeting,
emails,
because,
yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, I just don't understand what the deadline is.
I think the clock doesn't start until the public hearing is closed. But now that we know that it's not technically considered a complete application, I don't know if the clock started.
right, I'm not
Yeah,
sure.
all
either.
right, we'll find out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, good question.
Yeah,
My recollection is that each of the most complex projects I've ever been on the planning board for, that 60 days was extended.
I see.
Yeah,
In mutual,
Agreement.
mutual agreement.
Because the alternative is like starting and neither party wants to do that again.
right, and they don't want you to deny it, they
Yeah.
want you to try to work it out.
Oh, I
right?
see.
Yeah.
Okay,
We have the opportunity to take action,
Yeah.
the action would
Yeah.
be to deny it.
right.
got it.
Okay. Yeah, the only other final thing I wanted to bring up was the possibility of mentions there's such thing as a planning consultant or a zoning
Yeah,
reviewer. Can you explain that?
so a lot of boards that we work with or worked before have a planning consultant who does some of the work of, reviewing the applications for kind of initial intake and then also managing the steps that need to occur. And, that is a helpful person to have. And I brought it up the other day in the context of that some of the, you do need to have your CEO sign off on the zoning, but they could have assistance from a planning consultant, for instance, if this is something that's holding up projects in that initial review stage, and then for the bigger projects to help you organize the review, the seeker steps and those things, which I can also help you with, but a planner kind of has that expertise and would be able to bring that viewpoint.
And do you think this person would be able to take some of the load off of Corey and do some of these like, pre-existing non-conforming
I do.
checks?
But are they legally allowed, or are we allowed to take their guidance over Corey, or Corey would sign off on their suggestion?
Yeah.
So it's like and
So,
I think it's a question also of, obviously, we have to go in front of the village of the cost of that
Right.
as well, so.
well, it's an escrow cost. To the
Okay, to
applicant.
the applicant.
Yeah.
Is it more common than not that a planning board of a municipality like ours has something like that?
Yeah. About villages necessarily, towns tend to, yeah, and sometimes it's the town engineer has a planner within their firm who does this, or it could be a separate planner. We were the village of Rhinebeck, I don't think the village of Rhinebeck has a planning consultant.
Maybe it's something we can, I mean, when John comes back and Rachel's here, we can discuss. I mean, I kind of want to research it as well. I mean,
Yeah.
I think it makes sense to me. Because I feel like sometimes we talk in circles and it would be nice to have
Yeah.
someone who can, in addition to your guidance prior to a meeting, provide us with insight, but obviously it's something that we would have to get approved. I mean,
Yeah.
The city where I worked in New Jersey, it was very similar in size to New Paltz, very, very similar. Except, as I said before, we didn't have a college in the middle of it all. Anyway, the planning board did have a planner to do just that.
yeah,
Yep.
I think it sounds like a very good idea and helpful. I just.
Yeah.
And you're right, many engineering firms seem to have.
Flush it
planners.
out. Yeah.
So they work hand in hand with their engineers. So you're going to get an engineer's report, you'll get a planner's report, you'll get a legal report.
Interesting. All right.
And
Thank
especially
you.
for bigger projects where you have a lot of steps and secret review issues and,
Yeah.
someone that could help you through that.
So you wouldn't necessarily do it all the time. It wouldn't be an automatic addition to things.
You could do whatever you want. It could be either way.
So you could refer certain projects. to the
Yeah.
planner.
You could refer to the planner or not.
Unfortunately, we have all our big projects. I mean, we got more to come. but-
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I
Anyway,
think that's all. All we need is a motion to adjourn.
How much?
second.
All in favor?
I think,
Aye.
Emily, it was really nice to meet you.
Yeah, you too.
Thank you.
I'll learn as I go.